Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to AMA Puget Sound's Coffee Talk series. Our guest today is Nicholas Hauser. How are you today, Nick?
Hey, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. We're so happy to have you. You're calling in from Sacramento Valley, correct?
Yes, member kind of AMA Sac Valley. So
Supporter, absolutely.
happy
Absolutely.
to
So
support
we
a
love,
fellow AMA chapter.
yeah. So we love to, especially if you're an AMA member, AMA supporter, we love to have you on. So if you're interested, I'm going to have a form down below if you're interested in being a guest. But we're here today to talk about Nick, and we're actually going to be talking about email marketing. Not so much about you, but we're going to be talking about what you know and what you've experienced in email marketing. So let's get into it. First of all, how long have you been doing email marketing?
Um, oh gosh, I've been in the communications field for about 12 years now. Various writing roles, news writing, sports writing for Bleacher Report. I kind of made my way eventually to marketing manager of a nonprofit here in Sacramento. That's where I really got to sink my teeth into email marketing. Just really fell in love with it. I'm a total stats geek. It's kind of funny because I used to be a big baseball stats geek, and now it transitioned into email marketing stats.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something I just love about crafting that perfect subject line to get those open rates, increase the open rates, crafting that compelling message that
Mm-hmm.
inspires somebody to then click through and do exactly what your call to action is. So
Mm-hmm.
joined them about 2000. Oh gosh, what was it? 16. So I've really kind of honed in on the email marketing for the last 6 years. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just practice, and reading and looking at the stats your data gives you.
Mm-hmm. And what I love, and we were talking about this before, but I email marketing is very near and dear to me. I've been doing email marketing for 11 years. One of my previous roles was a full-time marketing manager. So this is going to be really fun. One thing that you called it out when it comes to being able to craft and understanding your customer, especially understanding the human side, but then seeing the analytics. I love using the creative piece and then seeing the results behind it, the cause and effect. Like if you change this word, it'll increase your traffic. And then you look at the psychology of it and you're like, oh, very interesting. So it's not just
Totally.
creative too, but it's understanding humans at a psychological level. So it's everything, especially if you're thinking about marketing. Email marketing is really, really fun.
Yeah, and there's just so much to A/B test, and hopefully one of the goals of this show is we can kind of give some listeners some ideas of what to A/B test. I go to lots of conferences that say you should A/B test, and it's like, okay, but how?
Right, exactly. It's one thing just to say it, but how do you do it? And that's really what we want this show to be about is like the how to. So, so first of all, like for somebody who's hasn't done email marketing in a while, or for those who are thinking about getting into email marketing, you've just taken a role where this is going to be part of your job, and you have to start somewhere. Like, first of all, how many emails should you send?
So I see this a lot out there. Like, how many emails should I send? Should I be sending once a week? Is once a day too much? Um, There's a couple of things you could do. I think number one, you have to kind of put yourself in your customer's shoes. Know your customer. There are some emails that I'm subscribed to that I get every single day,
Mhm.
but it makes sense. So AMA National, AMA Sac Valley, that's an example of something that I get. I get AMA's emails every single day, but
Mhm.
they don't
Annual
bother me
daily.
because that's the stuff I want. Like I
Mhm.
knew what I was signing up for. They give me good content to read through every single day, something to learn from.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas, I might sign up for a product, right? Like my boxing bags in the back. I signed up for the boxing website's email,
Mhm.
and I feel like I'm constantly getting it every single day. And it's like,
Mhm.
man, I bought something one time, and now I'm
Yeah.
getting every single day. Hey, have you thought about buying this? Have you thought about buying this?
Mhm.
And it's like too much. Just
Yeah,
it's too much. Um,
exactly.
That said, if it was like every single day, like this is on sale today, now this is on sale today, and I was waiting for that email, that one
Hmm.
specific thing I wanted, then that would make more sense. So I think
Right.
it's just kind of, you have to know your audience, know your customer. Um,
Hmm.
are your emails truly, truly giving value that they would need it every single day? And if the
Right.
answer just honestly is no, um, I would caution don't send it once a day. If
Right.
you're not even sure you're providing value once a week, um, I wouldn't even send it once a week. I think I don't feel like anybody is really waiting with bated breath. Like,
Hmm.
oh man, I can't wait for my weekly subscription email to come.
Right.
Um, so you really got to just make sure like you're really offering the value that your customer is looking for.
Hmm. And I'm sure another question that you get a lot is not only how many emails, but what day and time. Like there's some magic number. So I'm curious what you have to say about this.
Yeah, so I did this project for the nonprofit that I was working for because I was there. I was like, are we sending emails at the right day, like on the right day at the right time? I have no idea. Like, I'm just kind of guessing that I think Thursdays at 6:30 a.m. are doing well, just from like eyeball test. I think the open rates are pretty good, so I just kept sending Thursday at 6:30.
Hmm.
And then I had this idea, well, first I googled it. What's the best time and day? I literally I clicked on the first 10 links and there was 10 different times. It was like this one 9 a.m. is the best time. This one was like no, 11
Hmm.
a.m. This one 2 p.m. This one is like it could be 9, could be 2, could be 6. Depends. It's like, well,
Right.
that's not helpful at all. So what I did
Hmm.
was I went through the data that I already had. I went through 3 or 4 years worth of emails that we had already sent to our audience,
Hmm.
um, that they signed up to get. So obviously they care,
Right.
and they're the best indicators. So I went through 3 or 4 years worth of emails. I sorted everything by time sent, day sent,
Hmm.
and was able to pull out all the averages of open rates, click through rates, and I actually found that Mondays at 6:30 p.m. based on the data should have been the best day and the time.
Hmm.
Um, so of course I put together like a not a fake email, but like a tester email,
Yeah.
and sent it Monday at 6:30 just to test it. Let's see
Hmm.
if the results line up. And sure enough, our typical open rate was like 21, 22%. That particular email got like 42%, doubled
Wow.
it. The click through rate got 3.5% as opposed to our typical like 1.2%, so tripled it.
Hmm.
Um,
That's pretty
so
cool.
it was kind of cool to like look back at the data that you already have
Hmm.
and be able to comb through it and see like what works best for us. Um,
Hmm.
so in terms of best time, best day, I would say you can certainly Google it if you want to.
Yeah.
You can try based on what those things say.
Hmm.
But really, if you have the opportunity to go through the data that you already
Hmm.
have, you're going to be able to see more clearly what's working best for you already.
Right. And it's another way. I mean, I obviously as a marketer, it makes a lot more sense, but as a consumer, it sounds gross, but it gives you a better idea about your customers. Like you get to
Mhm.
understand your customers' behavior a lot more. Especially, yeah, you're gonna. In some cases, I recommend. I agree with you. You're gonna have to get your hands dirty, and set aside some time to sift through the data because it's more beneficial than just googling it. Yeah, everybody has their opinion, but like you literally just said, your customers will tell you.
Yeah,
Um,
what's going to work best for you is not the same as what's
mhm.
going to work best for me. What's going to work best for them?
Right.
It all depends.
Exactly.
We had an idea that weekends didn't work for us, and some of these articles said, "Hey, nobody's sending on the weekends. You should send on the weekends. That's a perfect
Hmm.
opportunity." But
Yeah.
based on this data, it showed weekends were horrible for us, so we just didn't even bother.
Hmm.
Um, and
Yeah.
there was a couple of times in there that we thought were really strong, and they turned out to not be strong. There was a couple, days that we thought like that. I thought that the Thursdays did well, and they did the second best. Um, but
Okay.
there really wasn't too big of a difference between Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I did the second best, but there really wasn't it wasn't too far off from the other days. So
Mm-hmm.
it was interesting.
Absolutely. And then another thing, like with our chapter, for a long time, we used to have we still have it, our weekly newsletter, and it goes out on Tuesdays. It's been like that forever, even before I was a part of this chapter. It was called the Tuesday Update. We've since
Mm-hmm.
dropped that title. Um, Maybe we re-add it. I don't know. But we were consistent. It was noon on Tuesdays every single week. And at one point, we would get emails from subscribers like, "Where's the email? You
Oh
normally
wow.
send it at noon on Tuesday." So it was really fascinating. And I think consistency can be very key with your customers. If you are dedicated to sending the same day, the same time every single week, you almost start training your customers of, hey, I haven't gotten that email. So it doesn't get lost compared to sending a daily email.
Yeah, totally. Now I
Mm-hmm.
would say on the flip side of that, because I've definitely run into this as well, we were sending a monthly newsletter, but we
Mm-hmm.
started kind of regurgitating a lot of it. And so that's where I was like, I pitched this, it was unsuccessful, but just something to think about for listeners here is if you have a monthly newsletter, but you're really kind of stretching for new content and you find you're just reusing the same content, like maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's where you just scrap the monthly newsletter and you just send out like, if you're taking the same four things over and over again, just one call to action
Right.
when you have it. Tours open back up of your facilities, send that out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you need volunteers, send
Yeah,
that out.
exactly.
Because I feel like on the flip side, if you're sending the same content on the same time every month, it's also training people to, oh, this is going to be the same thing it's been the last 3 months. I can just not even
Yes.
open that one.
That is a very good point. Yeah, the content has to be, yeah, the consistency is important, but the content is obviously much more important, the quality rather than the quantity.
Yeah. So I think in both cases, your case and my case, it's like it goes back to that value at the beginning that we talked about. Like if you're giving value, yeah, send it once a week.
Yeah.
If you're not really giving any value, then you might even be able to scrap the once a month newsletter.
Exactly. Exactly. That's a very good point. So another thing that I think people may or may not think about, but using the sender name and email, and how important is that? Because I've been on the receiving end where I've used my email for different campaigns, and
Yeah.
some people like to reply.
Yes. So that was also part of this big 3-4 years worth of data that I looked back at. I looked at sender name.
Hmm.
We tested a bunch. We were mostly sending from the nonprofit organization's name.
Okay.
Um, at some point, about halfway through, we switched it to our director of philanthropy's name.
Hmm.
Um, and then we kind of played with it. We played with his full name, comma, the organization. We played with only his name, first and last name. We
Hmm.
tried his first name with the organization. So all these different variations.
Yeah.
And the clear winner, there was two clear winners. One was his full name and the organization's full name.
Okay.
When we started using the acronym for the organization, it got less opens. And I think that's
Hmm.
because people didn't really understand what our acronym was. Like
Okay.
they saw the initials and they were like, I don't know what that is. Whereas they saw his name and the organization name and they were like, okay, I know this person from this group. Like I know it's trustworthy. I'll open it up. The
Right.
second clear winner was just his first name. My theory on that though is because if I just send an email that just says from Nick, people are going to say, well, Nick, which Nick? I know
Right.
like 15 Nicks. That's such a common name. And then they open it and it's from a nonprofit asking for money and they're like immediately turned off and they're like, oh, I feel tricked.
Hmm.
This isn't the Nick I thought it was, or I was hoping it was. Uh,
Hmm.
so I think really spelling out the name and the company
Hmm.
will help. I had mentioned that to nonprofits that I had given this training to,
Hmm.
and I saw a big shift. I subscribed to a lot of Sacramento nonprofit emails, and I saw this shift where all these names started coming into my inbox. And at first, I was like, I don't know who this is, but the subject line sounds important. And so it made me think like, okay, let me see what they're asking or see what they're saying. So there was a little bit of that intrigue. Um, so I guess the point is, well, let me back up real fast. One thing I always say in nonprofits is people give to people.
Yes.
And I feel like even if you don't work in a nonprofit, like your marketing is still going to be more effective if there's a person behind it. Like
Mhm.
think about like like FedEx on Twitter or like an airline. It kind of feels a little bit more personal and good when like you send a tweet off that's kind of like griping about something like why is my plane canceled or delayed? This sucks. And then somebody
Mhm.
writes a tweet back and they sign it. It kind of feels a little bit better to me.
Mhm.
Okay, this
Yeah.
is not just like some bot that
Right.
scanned Twitter and found my complaint and just like send out this like, oh, we see you complain, email here to tell us more. It's like,
Mhm.
hey, like we want to get to the bottom of this. Like, so sorry that happened. Signed,
Mhm.
Mark.
Right.
Like,
Right.
okay, it's a real person.
Yeah. Somebody's taken ownership over that. Like,
Yeah. And I feel like
absolutely.
it kind of works the same with emails, right?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
people give to people, people respond to
Mhm.
people. So if you put your name on that sender name, um, it just makes it a little more real. It kind of puts like a not necessarily a face to a name, but like a
Mhm.
name to an organization, a person to a building,
Mhm.
um, or a company. So it's just kind of a little bit of a personalization on their end that's going to make me
Mhm.
want to respond better.
Yeah, right. And there's that transparency as well. You can, as a audience or as a email reader, you're the audience. Obviously, you're already mentally prepped as to like, okay, I'm ready to open that email about it. Like, this is from so and so from this nonprofit. Okay, I'm mentally ready to open this email now, rather than, hey, I think it's my friend Nick who sent me an email, and you're like, yeah, oh, it's setting up the expectation.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And I think too, I think it feels when you get an email from a business, as soon as it comes into your mailbox, it automatically kind of feels like it's a mass email.
Yeah.
Whereas even if there's just a simple name attached to it,
Mhm.
it's like once you open it, you know that it's a mass email. But like for that split second, you feel like it's like just sent from that person to you. So it feels
Mhm.
a little bit more special.
Exactly. Exactly. And you've given me a great idea for something for membership. So yeah, it just that authenticity. And I think we're really all thriving for that and just looking for that a lot more now because as we mentioned at the beginning, like getting, 9 sales emails a day, it's just like
Yeah,
it's another
totally.
ad. I don't need that. I want to connect with another human. I love that we're talking about this.
Yeah.
So
And then
along
well, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say one more thing about the email. Like that's the name you're using, but the email account you're using. Um, One of the things that drives me nuts as a consumer is no reply. Like no reply at company name. Like
Right.
nothing to me screams louder. Like I don't care what you have to say back. Like
Mhm.
I'm not interested in hearing from you.
Right. It's
Is
like
a
you're
no
a no
reply
contact.
email. Like I'm
Right.
sure your IT team can create something. Like I don't care if it's marketing at business or info at business. Like just please, for the love of God, don't use no reply.
Right. And so I actually worked for a company. They did that on purpose because they purposely did not want to it was two things. One, they purposely didn't want to have one person monitoring. So either they would have to hire somebody or somebody on the customer service team would have to dedicate some time to reply to those. And another reason why they didn't want anybody to reply back also because there were going to be a lot of complaints. It was a
Uh,
type of company that would subscribe you to a monthly subscription,
uh,
and they didn't want people to call in to cancel. So it was not a good practice, obviously. So knowing that and having worked for a company like that, when I see a no reply, I'm thinking, are you scamming me? Are you putting me on a monthly subscription that I don't know about and I'm
right?
going to see in my bank account? So I'm already leery. Or like,
Yeah,
why don't you want to talk to me? Like, I don't wanna, but I'd like the option.
exactly. Like, just give me the option.
Yeah, I'm probably never going to contact you, but give me something as a
Yeah,
consumer. Like, you can send me all the emails you want, but I can't. That's literally tag you're it, no tag backs.
yeah.
That's not cool.
Horrible. I love that. You're it. No tagbacks.
Right? It's like, well, I'm not playing now, you know? And that's what I'll unsubscribe and I will stop being a
Yeah,
customer. I'm like, all right,
yeah,
take my ball and go
exactly.
home. Yeah. So aside from, not using no sender or no reply, what are some ways to increase open rates and click through rates?
Yeah,
There
so
are a few just tiny little things you can do.
yeah, so open rates. I mean, there's a direct correlation between your subject line and open rates. All right, I'm gonna choose to open your email based on your subject line. So in this presentation that I gave the nonprofits, there was like 5 keys to better subject lines.
Mhm.
So I'm going to pull them up here. So the first one is mystery, right? So you leave just enough information out to build some intrigue.
Yeah.
And I had examples. These are all nonprofit examples. I'm happy to share them though, just kind of
Yeah.
to give you an idea. So like we did a big backpack drive, right? And so one year we tried. We need your help collecting backpacks. So we
Okay.
thought we're going to get right to the point, tell them what we're doing so that they know.
Mhm.
Well, if you don't want to donate a backpack, like you already know, like, I don't have to open this email. Like, I've never donated backpacks. It's not my thing. I'd rather donate during this event.
Mhm.
So easy to just delete without opening.
Yeah.
If you transition that and give it a little bit of mystery and you say, we can't believe kids go to school without these. Well, now it's like, well, now I'm wondering, like, is it pencils? Is it paper? Is it shoes? Is it lunch? I'm going to
Right.
open that email to find out what they're going to school without.
Right. Right. Well, now there's panic as parents. Now there's panic over the last
Yeah,
couple of weeks. So,
yeah,
there's a little more urgency there.
exactly.
Mhm.
Um, and then you open it up and you have kind of the opportunity to explain, like, well, they go to school without backpacks, but like, here's why that matters and here's why that's so important.
Mhm.
So at least you kind of got over that first hurdle of like getting them interested and being able
Yeah.
to tell them the story of why a backpack is important. I don't know anybody that doesn't know why a backpack isn't important.
Right.
I don't think there's many people out there that are like, just carry your stuff, but it builds that intrigue, right?
Mhm.
Um, Second one is utility. So you imply something useful or interesting to your reader. So like, what's in it for them, basically.
Mhm.
Um, so we had written this as um, our sample was giving back produces dopamine. Okay, well, that gives me something, but also doesn't really have any mystery. So like, okay, you probably just want money. Like, I'll give back, I get dopamine, great. So you switch it, and this simple act will improve your mental health. So there's a little bit of mystery. There's something in it for them.
Mhm.
I want to improve my mental health. Like,
Right.
I'm going to open it. I get something out of this. What is it? And then
Mhm.
we get to hit them with like giving back. Well, that doesn't just mean monetary. It means volunteering. It means giving
Mhm.
items. Whatever
Yeah.
you can do. The third thing, and this is actually my favorite thing, is finding a way to put the word "you" in the subject line. There's all kinds of data out there that
Mhm.
says the more you add "you" in the body, um, you know,
Mhm.
the better. The more you use the word "we," the more it turns off your reader. So if that's the case, where you're adding "you" into the body of it
Mhm.
helps, then add "you" into the subject line as well. You're invited. This offer is exclusive to you. We thought you would like this deal,
Mhm.
something like that. In the nonprofit world, we had emails that said, hey, tours have returned for a short time after COVID kind of cleared up.
Yeah.
Tours have returned. No one cared. Um, we switched it to, hey, would you like to come take a private tour? And all our tour spaces filled up
Oh, nice.
because it was like, I'm reaching out to you to personally
Mhm.
invite you to this tour that I'm going to give you.
Right.
So, people were interested. It was that like, that exclusive offer.
Mhm.
Um, Fourth thing is obviously time relevant words. If you have an event on Friday and then you send out the results of that event or a link to the photo album from that event, obviously Monday is going to work a lot better than a month from now, right? Because
Right.
people know it's out of sight, out of mind. That was a month
Mhm.
ago. I don't care anymore.
Yep.
Um, in the nonprofit fundraising world, we have this 24-hour campaign is a lot more impactful than like, hey, it's June 2nd.
Mhm.
Don't forget to make a donation by June 28th. It's like, well, now you just told me I have 26 days to do that, so not doing it now.
Right? Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, we see that a lot with our ticket sales for our big events. We'll
Yeah,
see like, oh, the early bird pricing is ending. We'll see that the last 2 days, which I do want to put out there. I want to quick announce Market Mix is back. Registration is open since we're talking about that quick. Um, yeah, that's so fascinating.
yeah. So get your
That's so
tickets
fascinating.
now today, otherwise you will not get tickets.
Exactly.
You,
Exactly.
you,
But
you might
putting
still, but do it now.
right, exactly. You've got a month. But it's just so fascinating how you can turn that and it's just make it more about the reader and how that really affects the psychology of it's almost reverse psychology.
Totally. It's totally psychological.
It is.
Um,
And
and then the
that's
fifth one is just like all about authenticity.
mhm,
If you
mhm.
come off as like, this is an opportunity for me, clearly an opportunity for me to sell you something, like it's not gonna fly. Whereas
Mhm,
if it's like you're authentic about it, um,
mhm.
so again, nonprofit world, we've tried things like this is your last chance. It's got
Yeah.
keyword or time frame relevancy, but
Mhm.
also like this is my last chance for what? Like if I don't make a donation, what happens? Like
Right.
the world
The
is gonna end.
right. Yeah, that impact of if you don't, this will happen. And
Yeah.
they
Where
use
it's
that.
like,
Yeah.
and it's like this is your last chance. Like because it's December 31st, like I can make a donation January 1st. You'll still take it.
Right, exactly, exactly. Yeah, what is your need? Yeah, it's getting that like their hair isn't the audience, the reader, their hair isn't on fire, but your organization, they've got an immediate need. And so if you don't share that, if you don't tell that story, you're gonna miss a lot of fundraising dollars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Versus like the authentic, like, hey, can you help us reach this goal?
It's like,
Before the end of the year.
yeah, it's like,
Um,
well, that's just your goal. Like, where do my dollars go?
right. Yeah. And
Mhm.
it's a lot different if
Yeah,
it's, you change it from this is your last chance versus like, hey, if we don't raise this much money, like we're gonna close this program. Like,
exactly,
of course,
exactly.
like that has to be true. You don't want to say that and it not be true. Like that's
Right.
horrible.
Exactly. But to show like some impact of and how that impacts the community,
Right.
depending
Exactly.
on what that is.
And
Um,
especially now it's Pride Month. Like
mhm.
the authenticity people can see right through these rainbow colored logos on everything now. It's like,
Oh,
and
right.
they're getting called
Exactly.
out for it. So that's a
Yeah.
really good lesson in being authentic.
Right. Well, I mean, should we talk about the Walmart ice cream?
Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
no, we're not going to. But that was or that as a marketer, I was horrified. I just want to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That was
Yep. I'm
horrifying.
with you.
So I know we're starting to get out of time, but I really want to talk about A/B testing because it's so fun and
Yeah.
it's so important. And I know there are some folks, might be, still like, well, this has always worked. Why should I A/B test? We have a pretty decent open rate of like 30 to 40%. It's like, well, you want more, right? So I think some folks also might be a little afraid to do it. And I'm
Mhm.
just curious, first of all, like sample size. Like you can do an A/B test with 10 people, but it's really not going to give you any results. It really isn't. It's just the opinion of 10 people. But
Right.
well, let's start talking about some aspects of A/B testing just for a couple minutes.
Yeah. So I think most platforms now, like the MailChimps, the Constant
Mhm.
Contacts, I want to say, I know MailChimp for sure.
Yeah.
I would be shocked to find any that didn't let you do this. My Emma does it. You can A/B test your subject lines, and so
Yes.
basically what it does, like it's a checkbox,
Yep.
and it opens up a field, and you type in one or two. Sometimes they let you do three or four,
Hmm.
and what it'll do is if you have 1,000 people on your email list, it'll send out the two versions
Hmm.
to 50 people each, 100 people each, and it'll kind of take like an hour to see which one had the most open rates. And
Yep.
then based on the results, it will then send to the remaining 800 people the stronger A/B
Hmm.
test. So I feel like if that's an option, then why not use that every single time? Like it's
Right.
not going to hurt. Oh man, I sent this subject line to 100 people that didn't do so well. Well, imagine
Hmm.
if you sent that to all 1,000
Right.
when you could have had a stronger one, and it's a click of a button. Uh,
Exactly. Exactly. And then you can reuse those subject lines, the winning ones, reuse it like in a year or two, and
yep,
the customers won't remember, but and then you can A/B test it against something else. When I was
exactly.
an email marketing manager, we did A/B testing all the time. As soon as we hit that 1,000, we were so happy. Like, all right, where do we start? It was a lot of subject lines. We were testing, this photo versus that photo, photo, no photo, CTA versus other CTA. Like we were testing everything. Did this header work?
Yep.
Did it work without a header? And it was so fun.
Yeah, there's so much stuff you can A/B test, and it's really I we were talking offline about how like you go to these conferences and these trainings, and people say, "Oh, A/B test," and you kind of leave there going like, "Okay, cool, but like how? How do I do
Hmm.
that?"
Yeah.
And the subject
How do
lines
we do
again
this?
are easy, but the inside the email content, you have to take. So here's an example. We have Big Day of Giving here in Sacramento for nonprofits, and we were sending these really colorful emails, teal and yellow backgrounds, images with writing on them, and the basically the moral of that email was like, "Hey, Big Day of Giving is coming up. Pre-schedule your gift right now." That's it. Um, Not getting a whole lot of traction.
Hmm.
It did okay, but it could have done better.
Yeah.
So that's where you say like, okay, if this is doing okay, but it could do better, like let's A/B test it. So I read all this information, went through all these trainings that were like, you know, write out a long email, like everything says.
Mhm. Oh no. Oh no. This is the first time this has ever happened. Nick, I think you froze. No,
Oh,
we've
I
never
froze.
had this
I'm
happen.
here.
You're here. Okay.
Oh no, I'm here.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
So we had this email going out that was really colorful, pretty loud, but with one basic call to action.
Mhm.
It did okay, could have done better. That's where you kind of figure out like, okay, I'm going to A/B test this. So we
Mhm.
switched it to a letter from the CEO. We ditched all the colorful backgrounds, all the images, and it was just like, "Dear Julie,
Mhm.
Big Day of Giving is coming up." It was kind of a long email, but it
Yeah.
really over explained like, this is what Big Day of Giving is. This is why it's important to us. This is what we're hoping to raise. This is what that money will do for us. Here's, the minimum amount you can give. If you feel like that's not going to be a drop in the bucket, please be assured
Mhm.
this is what it will do for us. Every little bit helps.
Yeah.
And we made it, instead of, the A/B test number one was, we switched it from the organization to the CEO asking you. A/B test number two was we ditched all the colors for just a white background. A/B test number three was we ditched all the pictures for just more text heavy.
Yeah.
Um, we switched the logo from the top of the email to the bottom of the email. We put it in like his email signature so that the
Okay.
email looked like it was realistically like our
Okay.
CEO sat there and typed it out and sent it to
Yeah.
just you.
Okay.
And it did so much better. And it was just such like an easy, like,
Mhm.
let's just try it. If
Yeah.
it fails, then we know. And I feel like that's kind of what A/B testing is about. Is everybody's
Yeah.
kind of hesitant and like, oh well, what if it fails? Yeah, then it fails, and you know not to use
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Exactly. It's out there. It's like you can't take it back.
Yeah, but it's a
Yeah.
it's a good learning
Try it.
lesson.
Yeah. What is the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah,
You might get unsubscribers, but that's probably the worst.
Yeah.
Or a boycott. But honestly, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think people are going to really look at like your new email layout and say like, oh, I don't love this. This is horrible. Like
Right.
I'm gonna write to the Better Business Bureau about your emails. Like,
Right. I've been a grown up for a very long time. I've never been in conversations with non-marketers about an email campaign and the
no,
templates. It
no,
doesn't happen.
yeah.
Ugh, yeah, it's so fascinating. So one more thing, like what are some other things to consider when it comes to email marketing that maybe we didn't talk about?
Yeah, so one of the things that I learned myself, um, in a lesson learned kind of way, is always check the emails on your cell phone first.
Yes.
Um, and even on top of that, don't rely on your web browser's little button that says check out what this would look like on mobile, because you will run into a time where it does not look like that on mobile. And I can
Mhm.
say that having clicked that button, everything looked great. I sent it out, and then I looked at it on my phone, and there was an image about this big and super
Mhm.
blurry, and I was like, didn't look like that on my browser, and it didn't
Nope.
look like that on the little button on the see what it looks like.
Always send a test.
Yeah, you get fonts that are really, really tiny.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just make absolute sure. And if you have access, I'd look at it on an iPad too, just to make
Yes.
sure
Yeah.
everything looks exactly how you want it to look. It doesn't
Hmm.
stack in a weird way.
Right.
Things don't get cut off. Like so much could happen on mobile.
Hmm.
So that's
Absolutely.
one thing.
And there are tools out there that will, you have to pay for them, obviously, and I can't remember the name of it, but there was a Optimizely. I think
Mm,
they do that where you can um, send it through and see what it looks like in all sorts of different devices. So that helps. Or just having like a small cohort of test um, emails in a test group where it's, this person has an Android, this person has a
mhm.
Mac, and you can see it on the different ways. And they're like, yes, that looks great to me. That helps
Yeah,
too if you have enough people to do that. So the
exactly.
marketing team of one, it's hard.
Yeah, yeah. I would get in the habit of like just sending it. I would send the test to my email, and then I would look
Mhm.
at the email on my browser, and then I'd look at the email on my phone, and it's like that's at least better than nothing.
Right, exactly. And it
Yeah,
definitely it helps you as a marketer too. Like, okay, sometimes you don't need that extra word because it'll cut off
yeah,
brevity.
exactly.
Brevity. Yes.
Yeah, and then the other big thing I think is as we're getting more into, um, we should have been doing this 10 years ago, but inclusivity and there's some folks out there with disabilities. So really like taking the time to make sure you put that alt text on your
Yes.
images.
Hmm.
Um, you will never get complaints about the font being too big, but I promise you will get complaints about the font being too small.
Yes.
So if it looks good to you at 12 point, like up it to 14, up it to maybe 16,
Yeah.
just try it.
Yep.
I would be willing to bet some folks will thank you for
Yes.
making it larger for them to read.
Hmm. Yep.
Try to avoid the fun font colors like the turquoise and the
Hmm.
yellow that
Yep.
people aren't going to read. I would honestly stick to like black, dark
Hmm.
blue,
Yep.
maybe red. Um,
If it's like warning or really like highlighting something, then for it's a
yeah.
note. Yeah. Bolding certain words helps.
Hmm.
Yeah, it definitely, you have to think about, every type of person. I was always a fan of like either 16, 18 font for headers, but
Hmm.
14 for text. Like
Yeah.
I appreciate it as a glasses wearer. So
For
yeah.
sure. And I can't see, I'm not colorblind, but I can't see shades of colors that are really
Okay.
close together. So
Sure.
like all blues look the same to me, all greens look the same to me. So when you put like a yellow background and like an orange font for, because those are your event colors,
Yeah. Mm-mm.
I see that email and I'm like, I can't even figure out what's being said here.
Yeah, use them as like accentuants, accentuating different pieces, but not the full text. Yeah, absolutely, I agree with that. Like staying with the brand, but yeah, I agree. We should have been talking about accessibility a long time ago, pretty much when email marketing started. But
For sure, for
here we
sure.
are. But we are talking about it now, so
Yeah, I mean, it's not too late. You can
it
start
never
today,
it isn't. Yeah, people will notice if you don't.
for sure.
So, as we're wrapping up, I want to give you a minute or so. Is there anything that we didn't talk about, or something that you want to reiterate to the audience, or anything you want to promote?
I mean, I do the email service that I talked about, the 3 to 4 years worth of look back, to help find time, day, sender. Um, Happy to do that as a service if anybody does not have the time to do it themselves but is interested.
Mhm.
Um, you can find me on LinkedIn. Um, I think Julie, you tagged me on AMA Puget
Yes.
Sound, so
Yes, and we are going to put your description or in the description, we're going to put your links so you can get a hold of Nick. And yeah, that's awesome.
perfect. Yeah. Other than that, I would just reiterate, like, really test. Don't be afraid to test your stuff. A/B
Mhm.
test the junk out of it. It's
Yeah.
only going to make your email marketing better.
Mhm.
Even if it fails, it will still make your email marketing better.
Yep. You don't know until you do it.
Yep. Unless you ask, the answer is always no. This is the same thing.
Exactly.
If you don't test it, you're never going to know if it's better or worse or the same.
Exactly. Exactly. So don't be afraid. And if you are still a little leery, just contact Nick.
There you go.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I really appreciate it. Like I said, we're going to put your links down below into the description. And if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe. And as I mentioned before, Market Mix 2022, we are live in Seattle, Bell Harbor, right on the waterfront. You can see the ferries coming in, and it's so great. That's not the best part of the day, but we're actually going to be filming an episode of Coffee Talk during Market Mix. So if you attend, you will be in the audience for a live episode. And again, description or in the description below. Nick, thank you again. I appreciate it, and I hope you have a
Absolutely.
great day.
Thank you. You too. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Bye.